Shalom, and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Shabbat sermon with Rabbi Rebecca Schatz.
In Daily Minyan, we've begun a tradition of teaching between Mincha and Mariv. It began as a way of differentiating between these two services, one the afternoon and the other the evening, giving a bit more time to reach the, quote, appropriate halachic hour for the later service. We were teaching Jewish law around prayer, and then we pivoted to Mishnah, to Pirkei Avot, between Passover and Shavuot. The community enjoyed the Pirkei Avot quotables, and so we've continued learning from the Mishnah. This past week, I taught the famous line, Uvemakom she'ein anashim hishtadel lihiyot ish. And in a place where there are no people, strive to be a person. This Mishnah is not suggesting that people or this particular reader was alone in a room, but rather that we are all in situations, many times in our life, where we are surrounded by people who are making a decision or acting in a way that we don't agree. The easiest thing to do in these moments is to go along with everyone else. But what the Mishnah is suggesting is that according to Jewish law and tradition and general practice, we should stand up and be the person we think everybody else should be. This week's Parsha, as we've already learned from Isaac, shares the story of our scouts. The most known outcome from this story is the phrase that the land was flowing with milk and honey. But the story leading up to that reflection is not so clear. Scouts were sent into the land by Moshe to see if the land that they had come upon was ready to be conquered. Moses asks them in verses 18 through 20 of chapter 13 of Bamidbar to, quote, see what kind of country it is. Are the people who dwell in this country strong or weak, few or many? Is the country in which they dwell good or bad? Are the towns that they live in open or fortified? Is the soil rich or dry? Classic questions in order to understand what Moses and the Israelite tribes might come across if they enter into this land. After 40 days finding ripe and beautiful produce and land, they rushed back to share their findings. Other than the beautiful flowing land, their main report was that the people living there were giants and strong, and they would not stand a chance against them. All but one scout, as Isaac taught us, shared this opinion, Kalev. And he came to Moses and Aaron and he said, Alo na'aleh vayarashnu ota ki yachol nuchala. Let us by all means go up, and we shall gain possession of it, for we shall surely overcome it. These words by Caleb are words of confidence, of charge forward, of self-advocacy. Chizkuni believes that Caleb was trying to allow their leader Moses just a moment to share his words in the cacophony of voices from the scouts. But the Siftei Chachamim comment that it is written earlier that Chalev possessed a different spirit, which implies that there were two spirits, one in his mouth and one in his heart. To the scouts he said, I am with you in your plan, but in his heart he said the truth. Consequently, he was able to silence them. In a place where there are no people, be a person. Obviously, Caleb was surrounded by lots of people, but he wanted to make sure that the general feeling was not chaos and concern, but rather confidence and ability. He was sure to support this team, but also to push forward as a leader and say, we've got this. Unfortunately, Caleb's words did not totally help the scouts feel their strength or boost their confidence. So they turned back to Moshe and they said, there we saw Nephilim, children of Anak, and we were in our own eyes like grasshoppers. And therefore, we were seen that way in their eyes as well. In our Gemara in Masechet Sota, the rabbis say that the scouts lied in this verse. Sure, they are allowed to feel unworthy or small or incapable of power, But to say that that is how the people of the land viewed them, the rabbis in the Gemara say, how would they know? So that part of the verse is to them a lie. The Midrash, Bamidbar Rabbah, has a beautiful way of understanding this moment. The story goes that after the scouts say that they saw themselves as grasshoppers, that God said, I forgave them for that remark. But I was exacting when they said, and so we were in their eyes. God continued, did you know what I made you in their eyes? Who would say that you were not like angels in their eyes? The scouts did not believe in themselves. They did not have courage or self-confidence in who they were to move forward in the land. They weren't able to see past their fears, the people and the leaders that they could be. So Caleb did that for them, but they couldn't hear it. I want to finish this drash with a complete switch of this story that I only learned in writing the drash this year. Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, argued that the spies were not afraid of defeat nor of failure, but actually, they were afraid of victory. Rabbi Dalia Marks writes, while in the wilderness they were under God's providence and guidance, God provided them all their needs. The pillar of fire and glory, the clouds of glory accompanied them on their journeys, enabling them to be spoiled children. The Israelites in the wilderness lived a very protected life as embryos in the womb of their mothers. God gave them manna and kept them safe. God fought for them and allowed them to remain positive. When the spies had a glimpse at the life in the land of Israel, they witnessed a completely different reality. They saw people who work for their living. With their sweat, they brought bread from the earth, built their homes, maintained and took care of them. The spies were suddenly exposed to the vulnerability of human existence, and they got scared. They saw the inhabitants of the land subjected to the harm of nature, to the anxieties of existence, to drought, disasters, and invasion of enemies. So the scouts are not confident, but not because they were worried about being destroyed or unsuccessful in their conquering, but because they were scared of hard work, of change in living a life of challenge and feelings, of creating a world that is sustained by them and not protected by others. Marianne Williamson wrote, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Isaac, on a day where you are becoming a bar mitzvah, this is such an important lesson. It's important not only to be aware of your strengths and, of course, share them in a world where they are needed, but also to be confident in your abilities, even if the journey to success is difficult. It was easier for the scouts to scare Moshe and to share that they themselves felt inadequate and small. But that is not doing what the Mishnah says, nor what Caleb was trying to express. It's expressing to be a person where there's not a person among you, to stand out, to stand up, to put in the work, to feel the joy and meaningful success because it is in you. It is in each of us to use our strengths. The scouts could get away with showing fear and not having to deal with difficult but probably meaningful life ahead. A skilled teacher can get away with using someone else's projects, but his own creativity would have allowed the students to become closer to him and his interests. A rabbi can use AI to write a sermon, but her words then do not come from her heart or her grappling with text or her own connections to life. A musician can put together lyrics and harmony from songs written before them, but then what is their art to share with the world? It's my blessing to you, Isaac, and to all of us to take the story of the scouts and see the land in front of us and have Caleb in our ear. Even if it seems hard, to trust that we have the ability to push forward, to conquer something that we want, to learn from our mistakes, and to strengthen our view of ourselves in the process. The Israelites saw themselves as grasshoppers because they were not able to think of themselves as giants. May we all see the giant in us, feel the confidence that community gives us to strengthen our abilities, and be a person in all places where we can add meaning and power.
You've been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast website or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information on Temple Beth Am, Los Angeles, please visit www.tbala.org.